Oh, there are deep divisions simmering within the Democratic Party over hot-button issues like health care and abortion rights. But Elizabeth Warren says there should be no doubt about which wing of the party is in charge as we head toward the 2018 midterm elections. Liz?
We are not the gate crashers of today's Democratic Party. We are not a wing of today's Democratic Party. We are the heart and soul of the Democratic Party.
We are the heart and soul. Many have interpreted Warren's comments as a shot at Hillary Clinton, whom she reportedly believes hurt the party by moving toward the center during the presidential election. And although the crowd seemed to agree with her criticisms, the fact remains that many congressional districts would seem to be a better fit for pro-life Democrats in 2018. So is Warren right to say that Democrats should be pushing maximum strength progressivism to remedy their election ills? Joining me now, Hadley Heath Manning, Director of Policy at the Independent Women's Forum. Welcome back, Hadley.
Thanks for having me, Kennedy.
So let's discuss Senator Warren a little bit. I mean, we've seen this happening for a while, and some of the emotional, strong terms from her and Bernie Sanders show that progressives are not giving up. Can they do enough to coalesce a majority within the Democratic Party to make a difference and win more seats?
You know, what's interesting, Democrats are typically very good at messaging to Americans who are sort of middle of the road politically. But voters should pay more attention to, of course, their voting record, the legislative history. And Senator Warren has made a name for herself. She's responsible for creating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a part of the Dodd-Frank financial reforms. And so in that sense, she's a real contrast to the current president, President Trump, who's pursued an economic agenda of deregulation and freeing our marketplace a little bit. So if she's looking to sort of create some kind of foil to President Trump, she's done that very effectively, but I think voters ought to look at the issues more than just the messages.
All right, but the messengers themselves, it's getting quite interesting because even President Obama says that he is ready to assert himself, not publicly. He's not going to go out and interface necessarily with voters on the grand stage, but that he is going to try and influence the party as much as possible. Who does the showdown come down to with these two? Or these three? You could add Bernie Sanders to it.
Yeah, you know, I think the Democratic Party has been looking for someone to sort of take President Obama's legacy. Candidate Clinton wasn't able to do that when she was running in 2016. She wasn't able to attract the same voters who voted for President Obama because, of course, some of those voters switched in the President Trump counties.
Yeah.
Now they're looking for a different face to put on their brand, and I think Senator Warren can do this more effectively because, as I said, like President Obama, she's good at messaging to the middle while sort of pursuing a policy agenda that's further to the left.
Yeah, it is definitely far to the left, and she's certainly saying this at the Netroots convention where she spoke. Let's talk a little bit about one of the issues that is driving a wedge within the Democratic Party. Howard Dean and others have said that if there are going to be congressional candidates that get funding from the Democratic National Committee, that they have to be pro-choice candidates. And there are others who have come out and said, hey, man, you can't give us a litmus test because we live in parts of the country where we want to appeal to pro-life voters with a more progressive message. Can the Democrats figure out a way to have pro-life candidates who have progressive agendas at the same time?
Well, let's hope so. This is sort of reminiscent of the Women's March on Washington, for example, where some pro-life feminist groups were intentionally excluded. And the left does seem to have this problem where they elevate certain issues, especially the social issues, and make them untouchable. I understand a lot of Americans see the abortion debate morally as black or white, and that makes it very difficult for political compromise. But certainly candidates should have the freedom to break with the party line so long as that is what voters want to choose. Voters, of course, can decide on which mix of positions on which issues are best, but we do have political parties that are pretty strict about candidates towing the line, and that step is the first step often that candidates must take, getting the support of their party.
Absolutely, but you know, for many of them, they live in more conservative districts, and those happen to be their beliefs, and they would be compromising their beliefs and thus their authenticity if they just towed that Democratic Party line. It will be interesting because, you know, one thing that we've seen in this last election cycle is that people are no longer clinging to party platforms, that they are definitely taking it issue by issue, candidate by candidate, and a lot of these candidates don't want to be dictated to. It will be very interesting to see who ends up with more seats in 2018. What's your prediction?
Well, I'm not going to make any predictions, but I will say it's unfortunate we have such a binary choice in the United States with two major parties that tend to control everything. You look at other countries, for example, in Europe, they have coalitions of parties, and in Europe we also see a lot more compromise on the abortion issue where they, for example, have limits in the first trimester, and then after that abortion is illegal. So it's a real gridlock situation in the United States when people feel that they have to choose one way or the other.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I honestly see people leaving their parties and creating coalitions on different issues that are more in line with their beliefs and their voters, and hopefully more of them have the courage to do that. Hadley, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, Elizabeth